All right. Good evening, LinkedIn. Dave Wilson, the Ring of Hire Show. We got a great guest tonight. We're going to put Kayla Marie back to work here. How you doing, Kayla?
I'm doing good. How are you doing, David?
Awesome. And she is located in the Houston, Texas area. Now, I'm in PA. Before we go to the commercial, Dallas Cowboys?
No.
No, see, I know it. I know.
I'm an Astros girl. I'm an Astros girl.
All right. All right. We'll be right back after this. You gotta love those intros, don't you?
Absolutely.
Isn't it? Do you know Zachary at all? Because he's like, go birds, go birds.
I don't know Zachary, I don't think anyway. But hey, Zachary, how are you?
Yeah. Hey, listen, everybody. Tonight, I love doing. Let me back it up. I love having guests on that are, looking for a new career, wanting to, just grow within a company. And I came across your post, Kayla, and I really liked how you put yourself out there on LinkedIn. And I wanted to reach out to, and you accepted real quick. So I want to thank you for that.
Oh yeah, I appreciate you reaching out. To be fair, I didn't expect that post to get the traction that it did in any capacity, but I'm very grateful for it. It's just the power of social media, right? You think something little isn't going to go very far, and then all of a sudden it's got 22,000 shares.
I know that's a good thing, because like I told you before, videos right now it's the real you.
Mm-hmm.
It's you, myself. You're real people. You're not just a piece of paper.
Exactly.
Right? All right, we got two. Hey, Dave and Kayla, you're in good hands.
Oh,
right.
Thank you.
So, let's just talk about yourself, Kayla. Tell us about where you're from and what you like, some hobbies and everything about yourself.
So I'm born and raised Houston, Texas. I'm a Houston native. I'm not an implant. A lot of people are surprised by that for whatever reason. I guess because I don't have a Southern draw. But I was born and raised here in Houston, greater Houston area. I have a strong administrative/executive system background. My passion is in mental health and mental health advocacy. It has been for many years. I have done a lot of advocating, a lot of nonprofit work for mental health and mental health advocacy. I've even tutored and mentored young children who come from complicated backgrounds. And so my goal is to end up with a company that I can easily transition into a care coordinator or therapist or counselor role. I'm going back to school at University of Houston in spring of 2022. I had to take a little bit of a sabbatical for the past year and a half, just had a lot going on, and then COVID happened. So I wasn't sure what was going to happen, like most people. But I'm going back in the spring to finish out my undergraduate. And then from there, I'm going to apply for my master's and potentially my medical. I might go to medical school. We'll see how I feel. But I'm looking for a company and looking for a position where I can really grow. That's really going to utilize my creative thinking. I am naturally a very creative and analytical person. I have kind of the best of both worlds. And so looking for some place that is going to appreciate all aspects of that.
That's awesome. Oh, Tuvia, I'm sorry. He's a great guest. Do you call it pop or soda?
Soda.
Soda. We call it soda. Tuvia is from Florida, and he does staffing up in New Jersey and over in New York. Pop. I didn't even know that would be one of the questions. That's a great interview question. Kayla, I noticed, like I said, you've been in administrative and, with the cancer center. Can you tell us about that?
Well, I work for MD Anderson Cancer Center currently, and of course, it's a wonderful organization to work for. However, I do find it very complicated to promote within that facility. And I'm not the only one who feels that way. A lot of people often leave to go on to different positions, different jobs, and then they eventually come back to MD Anderson once they kind of get that promotion outside of the institution.
Right.
It's also hard to promote when you don't currently have a degree.
Yeah.
And of course I'm working on mine, but it's a slow moving process, of course.
Is that some of the struggles that you face like now, like in your job hunt? Like what kind of struggles when you said that? Is that part of it? Because you're in transition with you haven't graduated totally. Does that go, you know what I mean, towards you?
I think it does. I think it plays more of a role into job hunting than I wish it did, especially when you're looking at administrative and executive assistant roles.
Right.
Most of what we do doesn't require a degree, and I know you could debate that. Many people could, but I have 10 years of experience doing what I do, and I'm getting my degree in something that's not even relevant to that. And many people who do administrative work have degrees that aren't relevant to administrative work.
Right.
And so I do find that, of course, everybody wants the degree, and that's fine. I mean, if you have that standard for your company, I completely respect that. But it is a little bit of a wall that I've hit in my job search as well, especially when it comes to certain salaries that I'm looking for as well.
It is, because I tell everybody, and the reason why I like doing this with you is because you're a person right there. You said it already. You like challenges. You want growth. You're creative, and I talked to you about before your education. We're going to get into the photography. Your passion for mental health. And, when you get to that level, we talk about all the time experience. When does it outweigh, having a degree? And that, like you said, that's a big debate everybody has. But what are you currently looking for? Like if you had your dream job right now, what would it be to start with?
Oh gosh, dream job is definitely a psychologist, hands down. I love mental health and I love helping people, and I feel like I have a knack for the therapeutic and the logic and like helping people find reasonable and long-standing solutions for things that they're dealing with. I've always kind of been that friend as well. And so that's the dream job, right? And so but of course, to do that job, you need a degree, which is why I'm adamant about finishing, my education. Right now, what I would love to find a position with a company that is mental health heavy, where I can easily, I can come in at the ground level as an administrative assistant or as an EA. And then as I finish my schooling, easily transition into a therapist, counselor, psychologist role as I move up the ring in my education ladder.
Well, wouldn't you say that's progression though, what you're doing? I'm sure the patients there you really adore, you're working in that environment, you're working there, you're going to school, and you're gradually, that's going to help you once you get that, I'm sure, right? Because you've been there, you've done it, you've worked yourself all the way up, kind of like with the degree, same thing. And now you're going to oversee and what you're looking for. Are you looking for within Houston area, Houston, Texas, right in that area there? Or?
I mean, of course I am, since I live here, but I'm not married to the idea of staying here. I like to travel, I like to see the world. I don't have a hard preference to stay here. Of course, I have friends and family here, and everyone's like, oh, you want to be close to them. And of course I do. But at the same time, I'm open to travel. I'm open to I'm open to relocating for the right company, for the right position. I'm open to even just traveling. If there's a remote hybrid position where they need me to be on site sometimes, but the company's in California or New York or PA or wherever, I'm fine going in and traveling and doing stuff like that. Because one of the beautiful things about being 34 and childless and not married is I have a lot of flexibility. So
I love it. That right there, that was it. This is a great interview. I love it already. But and you're being truthful. What I wanted to ask you was, when you go into the background administrative support, can you discuss what's one of the best experience that you have in type of field, if you had to say?
I think my best experiences come from being able to assist people, and specifically right now physicians. That's where the bulk of my experience is, right? Is assisting physicians. I have made amazing connections and amazing relationships with physicians. And that's one of the main reasons why I went into the medical field, because I was originally in kind of like engineering, not necessarily oil and gas, but, just kind of like I had oil and gas experience. I had some engineering experience, assisting people of that caliber. And I made the decision to go medical 10 years ago because I knew I wanted to do something in the medical field. I wasn't completely sold on what I wanted that to be at the time because I was only 23 and I had no concept of life yet. But
that's a good one.
Yeah, I mean, 23. What the hell do I know at 23? Nothing.
Right.
Nobody knows anything at 23.
Nope.
So, but I did know I wanted to do medical, and I did know that I either wanted to be a doctor or some type of physician. I just didn't know what type yet. I hadn't landed on mental health yet.
That's awesome.
And so the best thing about my current role and even my previous role at the med school is the connections that I'd made with the physicians, and I did that because I knew getting in at the ground level and making those connections was going to help me career-wise. Because yes, I need the degrees. Yes, I need the schooling. Yes, I need the certifications. I need all those things to be a practicing insert, title here.
Right.
But having the connections is 80% of anybody's success, in my opinion.
And that's what we say with LinkedIn. Listen, I love LinkedIn. I didn't even know what LinkedIn was 10 years ago. It was one of those things, but now the people that I've met, over these last 2 years, it's priceless. If I have any kind of questions, I can reach out to someone and just in that field, and they're going to give you some great answers. I had to put this in here. I know we discussed it. Sign language. I love it. You got to tell me a little bit about that. Tell everybody about that.
So I am conversational in sign language. I'm not a certified translator by any stretch of the imagination, but in a pinch, I can translate for people. It was something that I was very curious about growing up, and I didn't really ever understand why it wasn't standard knowledge in growing up. Here in Texas, we're pushed Spanish because of our relation to the border in Mexico. And I understand that. And I understand quite a bit of Spanish. I don't speak it very well, but I do understand quite a bit of it. And so with sign language, I'm a naturally expressive person. I naturally talk with my hands anyway. And it was a curiosity that I had that I thought I would be good at it. And I ended up taking 3 years of it in college, and I really, really appreciated it. And now I have deaf friends. I have people in the community that I work with. And then I also just met a woman at my local gym that I go to that is deaf. And she was like, "How do you know sign language? And you're a hearing person." I was like, "Oh, I took 3 years in college." And, I have deaf friends now from that. And it's just something that I think makes a world of difference, because you never know when you're going to be in a situation and somebody doesn't communicate the way that you do, first of all. But then, hearing is such a fragile thing. And so it's like, we never know when we're going to be subjected to hearing loss or things of that nature. And so I just thought it was a really useful tool to have. And it's something that is fairly universal. There is Spanish sign language, there is French sign language, but overall you can kind of get your point across with just basic ASL.
That's awesome. And I want you to really connect with Tuvia here, because what Tuvia does is he's in Florida, but he staffs all these type of positions in New York and New Jersey. Mm-hmm. So this is one gentleman that you really want to connect with. He has a company, and Jobs Jamach it's called, and he could really even assist you on that with a lot of remote jobs. I guarantee it. Tuvia is going to reach out to him.
Yeah, that'd be great. I mean, Tuvia, feel free to reach out on LinkedIn. I'd be happy to connect with you about some opportunities that you have.
Yeah, he's a great contact, and I always tell people he'll pull something through for you. We talked about a little bit getting to know you and everything, and I saw photographer of 12 years. Now I'm a DJ, so first thing I was reading it, I'm like, all right, it's got to be weddings.
Yes, I did weddings for a very long time. I actually have been shooting photography since I was 13, so I've been shooting for over 20 years now. I did weddings for probably 5 or 6 years of that. And now I do a lot of fashion editorial, a lot of magazine work. I haven't shot in a while just because of COVID, but overall, I like fashion editorial, like the freedom it gives me. But yes, I did also do weddings for about 5-6 years. I ran a fairly successful wedding photography business for several years, and then I got burned out.
Well, I'm going to tell you one thing that I know about you that I can say everything for being a wedding photographer. I did a wedding Saturday, and people don't realize the stress that you're under. Yep. Because as a photographer, I was talking to the guy. I said, you know what? This tells you what kind of person you are. I'm the DJ. Listen, you can make or break somebody's wedding. Let's face it. You make one mistake, 2 mistakes, it's their day. So you really, to me, you're detail orientated to like that.
Yep.
You have to get that picture that right at that moment. So if you're not paying attention, you're detail orientated like that. I mean, it's a discipline.
Yep.
And it is a skill set. It's a highly skill set that I believe in, because it just tells you what kind of person you are when you're doing somebody's wedding. I'm sorry, one chance. That's
you get one shot at so many things, and you also have to have good timing. You also have to be extremely organized. Like, you have to, because you have to be extremely organized in a sea of people who are not extremely organized, because the bride, by the time you're asking for shot lists and everything else, the bride's burned out. The groom doesn't know what's going on half the time. No offense, but y'all are just there for moral support and food and alcohol, and it's fine. And I support that. But, the bride's burned out. You have to know what's important, what's not important. You have to remember all your lenses. You have to have a backup camera. You have to have backup SIM cards. You have to have everything. You have to check your P's and Q's. And sometimes you even have to play security, because the mother-in-law or the mother of the bride will, try to undermine the bride herself. And it's like, no, that's not on the list. So we're not doing it.
I'm listening to you, and that sounds like my life right there, because like you said, I mean, besides what you've done here and what you're doing, it just tells you what type of person. And that's why I wanted to people to hear you say that, is because, again, you get one shot. You're very professional. You have to be, you're not going in there. Your first impressions, first impressions to me are a lot.
Absolutely.
I think, and anything like that. And it shows with everything that you've done here. What kind of company would be good for you? What are you looking for a company, and what would you kind of expect too, if that makes sense? Like,
I think for me, I don't know if this is a straight answer to your question, but what immediately comes to mind is what I'm specifically burned out on is people in positions of power, like managers or things that are bosses, things of that nature, that really don't have any concept of emotional intelligence.
Right. That makes sense.
I see that across the board in so many leadership roles. You've got people in these positions that are just, in my opinion, negligent, right? Like, they don't really understand how to communicate with people, but then furthermore, they don't understand how to connect with people. And so that leads to high turnover, that leads to high burnout, that leads to unsatisfactory, reports and reviews and things of that nature, because your people don't feel appreciated, don't feel valued. And it's part of what I'm currently dealing with in my current position. And I've reached a point in my professional career where it's like, look, it's 2021. We're in a day and age where if you're going to be in a position of power, if you're going to be in a position of authority, you have to know how to talk to people. You have to know how to connect with people. You have to have people skills. Otherwise, your company is going to tank, or they're at very least going to have an extremely high turnover rate.
We talk about that all the time, and you hit it right there. In that position, if you're in that position, you need the skills, the communication, and how to talk.
You need people skills. That's what it really comes down to. You need people skills. And that's really kind of like what I'm looking for, at least in management and overall in a company, is people who are promoted or at least in positions of authority and power and decision-making that have the ability to communicate effectively, compassionately, and have genuine people skills. I understand we're all there to accomplish something. I understand we're all there to do a job. We're all there to complete a task. I understand that. But at the same time, if you're dealing with something as an employee, if you're dealing with something, I don't think it's completely unreasonable to be able to go to your manager and just lay it on the table and be like, look, I need some time off. This is what's going on. And I understand some people are very private. They don't want to share, and that's completely fine. But me personally, I'm a very straightforward person. I'm a straight shooter. I lay it all on the table, and I'm like, this is what's going on, and this is why I need X, Y, Z. And when I've met with resistance, or when I've met with just general disinterest in that, I immediately start losing loyalty to wherever I'm working.
Right.
Because
that's you hit it right there with management, and when you want to stay with a company because you want to grow. I can tell just by talking to you, you are very from the schooling that you're going and everything like that, getting your degree. And I mean, it shows when you're talking about it, it really does.
Thank you.
So I wanted to ask you, why did you choose your college major? That's interesting.
Psychology.
Yeah. Why did you choose that?
It's a very personal reason, but I have no problem discussing it because I am an open book. So I grew up with a mother who has paranoid schizophrenia as well as bipolar 1 disorder, and she was in and out of psych wards my entire life. And I saw the negligence from law enforcement. I saw the negligence in our just laws surrounding mental health and just how broken the system is, right?
Right.
Because I couldn't get my mother the help that she needed because of all the red tape and things of that nature. But furthermore, I believe that because of all the things that I went through and all the growth that I've done and all the healing that I've done from all those situations, I am in a unique position to be able to provide support and resources and life advice and counseling to people who need it and who are looking for, a light at the end of the tunnel. Because when I was going through my stuff, I was the only person around me who was going through my stuff.
Right.
There was nobody else around me that was, being neglected by their parents. All of my friends came from good families.
Right.
And I promised myself, if I ever got on the other side of what I was dealing with, I would be a lighthouse for others. And so psychology has provided me resources. It has provided me healing, but it has also provided me a deep understanding, not only of myself, but of humankind as a whole. I've reached a point in my schooling and my self-education and my own healing where 9 times out of 10, I can't get mad at somebody for doing something anymore because I understand the psychology of why they're doing it.
Why? That's. I'm telling you. Oh, we got somebody over here. Jamie, pop. What is this? What is this? What? In the middle of an interview all day, soda or pop? Okay.
It's soda. It's soda here in the South. It's not pop. It's pop in New York.
Thanks, Jamie. But back what you just said right there, and I really enjoyed what you just said. During, we're having an interview like here just to get people to get to know you. These are the kind of things that you just put that out there, what you said. Okay. And I thought it was awesome because I just was glued to what you were saying there because you've seen it. You're talking about from your mom. You've wanted to help, and I commend you for that. I mean, you want to make something better when you lived it yourself.
Yeah.
But you can't make that up. You just said that. You can't make up what you just said. You can't say that in an interview sometimes. But look, again, you said that. I mean, everything about you that I've known already within an hour that we've spoken, a half hour prior, you like new things, challenges, creative, problem solving, education, advocate, photographer, passion, mental health, caring, and administrative work of what you're doing and what you're going for school for. I got to tell you, I mean, that's why I wanted to have you on the show because you really stand out.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. I used to think that, because I've always been loud, I've always been opinionated. I've always just been kind of this girl that kind of didn't go with the flow in terms of like societal norms, right? I mean, there's a reason why I'm 34, never been married, don't have kids, right? And a lot of that has to do with, I've had to take care of myself for so long, and it just wasn't ever, I don't like to settle, right?
Right.
And that's my big thing. I think if there's anything that anybody needs to know about me is I don't settle.
Right.
I reach a goal and I'm like, okay, what's next? What's next? What's the next challenge? What's the next thing that I can do? What's the next thing I can achieve? And truthfully, my main goal is I want to be content and I want to be successful and I want to be happy. And of course, those are all going to look different to everybody, right? Those 3 things are going to look different to everybody. Everybody's got their different form of happiness, nirvana, whatever you want to call it. But at the end of the day, I am resilient. I am driven. I am adaptable. I am resourceful. And I think because of how I grew up and the situations that I grew up in were so unique.
Right.
It provided me highly coveted skill set of being able to think on my feet.
Right.
And it's also why I continue to, I get into a job, I get into a position, I learn what I need to learn, then I'm ready to advance.
You're ready to go.
And a lot of that is because I learn fast and I think quick on my feet, but I'm never, me being an administrative role, that being my career, that was never the goal. That's never been the goal. And it's hard for me to connect with people where that's their only goal. And it's hard for me to connect with managers where they expect that to be my only goal. And then they resent me for wanting more. And it's just this weird caveat dynamic where it's like, I'm not going to apologize for being driven, but if you're not going to invest in me in a way that I feel is tangible, then I don't have any reason to stay.
I'm still listening to you because I'm just like, wow. I mean, you're saying all the right things. And like Jamie said, she's in Michigan.
Hi, Jamie.
I love your confidence and how well you know yourself. And
I do, yeah. And I'm not going to sit here and say I'm perfect. I'm not. One of the biggest challenges that I have in many positions is I get bored.
Right.
I get bored because I learn quick. I think quick on my feet. I'm a complex problem solver, and I get bored. I get bored with monotonous, busy work. I get bored with doing the same crap all day, every day, day in and day out. I mean, when I was at the med school, one of the things I loved about it was I was in trauma. So I had my baseline skills and my baseline duties that I had to do every day, which, I like a little bit of routine. I don't like a total chaos.
Right.
But then in terms of like what was coming in the trauma unit for research, I didn't know what I was going to see that day. And I loved that because it was something new and engaging. And I think that's a lot of what employers struggle with, and what I struggle with getting out of an employer is feeling engaged, feeling challenged, and not being bored all the time.
I could have you on another show for another topic for this. Wow. You're on both sides. I love it. It. I'm just like, okay, hey, I love it. So, keep going.
I was just going to say, I understand we're all going to have downtime. We can't all be busy 24/7, 7 days a week. First of all, it's not healthy. Second of all, it's hard for a company to, keep you engaged 24/7, all the time. And I get that. Right. But if I'm, there 5 days a week, whatever 5 days that is, and 4 of those days I've really got nothing to do, that's torture for me. Like, I need to be engaged. I need to feel like I'm accomplishing something. I need to feel, like I'm making a difference in some point. And that's also another reason why I'm pursuing, the mental health side of things, because I'm naturally a caring person. I'm naturally, a good resource for a lot of different things. But then at the same time, I feel like I'm making a difference as well. Yeah, a lot of people can relate to boredom and monotony, Jamie. Yeah, it's like the tedious, busy work. And that's another thing, is that like my managers, not in my current role and in previous roles, like, well, if you're bored, just tell us, we'll give you work. And then all they do is give me busy work. And I'm like, that's not helping me.
That's not helping. And I get what you're saying there. I mean, to even come out here and say that, you've nailed it. You're not even making this up. That's what I like about, again, I keep saying it to people, the videos like this, because it's powerful.
Yeah.
This is powerful.
I'm very candid as a human being. I'm sure you can tell, like, one of my life mottos is do no harm, but take no shit,
All right. Well, on that note, no, that was good. I love that. I'm already all right, because I was like, I had all these questions, but I don't even have to answer. You answered the majority of them all. I'm like, all right, Dave, in my mind, I'm like, what am I going to ask her next? I'm like, she's answered everything so well.
Thank you.
I tell everybody on LinkedIn here, listen, if you've watched this video, if you're watching it tomorrow or next day, Kayla, I put your email on there. Perfect. That they can reach out to you on your Gmail here, and please, anybody feel PM, message Kayla, because we're going to tag the living hell out of a lot of companies. Oh, we got Scott here. If you want to read that, good.
Scott says, with honesty comes empathy, and empathy comes respect, and with respect comes higher level of trust. With this comes people want you on their team. You're being real. Most people can't even open the door into themselves. Yeah. I appreciate that, Scott, very much. I'm very candid. Another thing that is actually not on my resume is I do stand up. So I do live stand up.
On top of everything else, right?
On top of everything else. Pre-COVID, I had a pretty good following here in Houston, and then COVID happened, so I've got to get back to it. But I mean, that's a lot of it is
Yeah.
I like to believe that I have a good demeanor about myself, especially when it comes to being truthful, because some people tell the truth and they're just straight assholes. I mean,
Right.
it's like, wow, I didn't need you to hit me over the head. And one thing that I've learned in my 34 years of existence is if you're going to tell somebody the truth, you have to make them laugh. Otherwise, they're going to kill you. And so that's kind of how I've always lived my life is, look, I'm very truthful. I'm very upfront, but I'm at least going to make you laugh in the process, even if I'm roasting you a little bit.
Well, you're getting me a little bit because I'm like, all right, what can I ask next in my mind? But no, I mean, you said it. You can't make this up, you know? And can you imagine if all interviews were like what we were just talking about right now? Because I know so much about you. You know so much about me that we talked before, but think about it. We didn't really even ask about what you've done in the past,
right?
Or your other jobs were. We didn't even go over for them. And this is the type of I liked when I was interviewing for Tesla people. Right? They would take your resume, you'd look at it, you'd have the person like this. You'd be going, okay, now we're going to have a conversation here. You're going to know about me, and I'm going to know about you by the end of this conversation. But the resume went. And through what we're having conversation, look, we already know you by now. What you've done, everything from stand-up, photography. You know, you're going to college. You get your master's. I mean, it's just everything's right there.
Yep. And I always tell people, you know, I understand resumes serve a purpose. I understand CVs and bio sketches serve a purpose. I'm not negating that fact at all. But the reality is get me in front of you, because once I'm in front of you, you'll actually get to understand who I am, because I don't pull any punches.
Right.
A lot of my interviews honestly go kind of similarly to this. Like, I may not cuss as much, but you know,
well, you sure had me towards. I didn't think we were going to be talking some of the questions, but it's you. It's the real you. It's listen, people see me all the time. They know me, Tuvia, and all these people I know. You just know. You know
I just let people know what they're getting. You know, I'm opinionated. I'm an advocate. I'm not going to do any harm, but I'm not going to be mistreated.
Right.
And I know what I'm worth. I know when I screw up, I own it. I'm like, you know what? I dropped the ball. That's on me. And I accept whatever repercussions come from that because I screwed up. And that's another thing that I struggle with, especially in a lot of corporate world, is so many people lack accountability.
Right.
So many people lack accountability. So many people want a scapegoat, right? And a lot of times it's the lowest people on the rung who are the scapegoats. And I don't tolerate that. I'm like, no, if I screwed up, I will tell you. I own it. But a lot of people in management, especially in the corporate world, they're like, oh, well, you didn't do this exact thing the way. I was like, actually, I did. And here's the receipts for it. So
no, it's true because you own it. I do the same thing. Yeah. I've learned through the years. I don't sugarcoat it anymore. Listen, if I did wrong, I'll tell you that I did it wrong. There's nothing wrong with a boss manager saying, listen, I didn't screw up, but I made a mistake. I own it. And then usually everybody moves on from there. There's not another piece of conversation about it, you know? And that's what it comes with. But I want to thank you so much. This has been a trip. You know, it was really good get to know you a little bit. And
absolutely, David. I really appreciate your time and energy, and it's been a pleasure. I really do appreciate it. And if you ever want to have me back on the show, just let me know. I'd be happy.
We're going to have it, and we're going to get you. We're going to help. And, you know, I was going to send you the YouTube link from this, and then we're going to start tagging those companies. But, you know, if anybody, please watch the show tonight. You know, reach out to Kayla. Houston, Texas. She likes Dallas. No, not Dallas. You know, I had to throw that every time I talk to somebody in Texas. And I got to tell you, there's a lot of people in Texas looking for work.
There are, which, you know, there are a lot of people looking for work. And I think it's because so many companies, you know, want to, you know, people, I'm not going to sit here and say Texas isn't affordable. When you compare it to New York and California, it absolutely is.
Right.
But the problem is that our cost of living has gone up because of the influx of people that are immigrating here, which is great.
Right.
You know, we're happy to have you. I'm not going to sit here and be like, we don't want your California implants or we don't want your New York implants. You know, I'm not going to say that. Like, I've met so many cool people in this city. But at the same time, like, the wages here in Texas haven't kept up with the inflation rates. And so I think that's why a lot of people are looking for work, is because you've got these big companies that want you to have a master's degree, but only want to pay you $35,000 a year.
Well, that's what I mean. You can go on LinkedIn, and I'm telling you, I've had a lot of people on from Texas here. It seems Texas. And I'm wait a minute here. if everybody's saying there's all these jobs, then why can't you fill them? What's going on through there? The money, and like you said, it just, I don't get it. All I hear is companies are going to Texas. That's all.
Yeah, companies are going to Texas, but then they're not, they want to pay us, $40,000 a year, but expect us all to have master's degrees. And it's like, no, I spent 60 grand on my master's degree. No, thank you.
No, that's what I'd say to my wife all the time. I don't even know what it costs. I don't even want to know. You know. But again, thank you so much. And anybody, please reach out. Scott, Jamie, Tuvia, thanks for tuning in. And I know a lot of people listen to this tomorrow. Oh, one more thing. What's your podcast name?
Oh, Authentically Mental.
All right. So are you gonna be on, where do you do that? On YouTube, or is it just
I'm on Spotify, Apple, iTunes, and Google Play, and SoundCloud.
Jeez, I can only get on LinkedIn Live here and all this other stuff here. I don't even have I'm trying to figure everything you said there. I don't think I'd have time to even figure it all out. So
that's right.
Thanks so much, Kayla, for coming on, and everybody. And we always end it out with a video, and I'm going to talk to you in about 1 minute.
Perfect. Thank you.